dealing with the issue of race in the United States.
Well, thank you very much again. Dr. Higginbotham suggests that race is fundamentally a part of social structures here within the United States. In the last segment, I mentioned about the complexity of race because it is so ingrained in the fabric from 1619 to 2016. So what does that theoretical framework mean by fundamentally a part of social structures? If we think of the 10 major institutions that make up the society, such as family, such as economics, such as education, such as medicine, such as the government and politics, entertainment, mass media, law, all of those types of characteristics that make up the society, Higginbotham would suggest was ingrained in a very racist way toward African Americans and other ethnic groups in America, and that it still persists as we think about how culture is defined as something that is passed down from one generation to the next generation to the present time here in 2016 and ahead. Now, Alex de Tocqueville, a great French philosopher, came to America maybe 150 years or so after 1619. And what he found as he was traveling in horse and buggy throughout the South, these people of African descent that were enslaved. And as he looked at the very foundations of society, he said there's no way America could ever reach a democracy. Why? Because it was founded on slavery. So therefore, when we think in terms of it being so ingrained in our society, in order for us to make improvements on it, we must just understand that that's how this particular country and society was founded. Now, many people listening would say there's plenty of evidence that race relations has changed, and they're absolutely correct. You and I can remember when school segregation was very prevalent here in the United States. Some people might be able to look at a little age difference between us, but I was in a segregated type of a situation through the 8th grade. Many of the viewing audience might remember that. So the segregation took place, so we can see how there were certain improvements. We can look back at 244 years of enslavement in 1861 to 1865 with the Civil War, and after it ended, there was the Emancipation Proclamation. So 13th Amendment freed the slaves, the 14th Amendment, they gave a citizenship right, and the 15th Amendment gave the right to vote. Now, when we talk about Higginbotham's piece on it being so ingrained in the fabric, we're talking about 1866, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in 1865 was making the comment that people still do not have the fundamental right to vote in America. That's 100 years after the voting rights was given to slaves that were freed. So that's that notion of that. So we can see other possible improvements in race relations in America. The segregation is mentioned. We can see that we can drive any place from the East Coast to the West Coast, and if you want to get a place to live public accommodations are certainly free. You can speak and do anything that you want to, go into any store that you want to. We can even go as far as say now we actually have an African American president, and we can see representative on the Supreme Court, since that's such a topical issue. So there have been improvements. However, as we look at those improvements, we can also look at these disparities that I mentioned from my postdoc training through my PhD that are still very present, such as incarceration rates that you and I have talked about on the show many a times. Those disparities, if you look at Dr. McIntosh's piece, after slavery, that so many people of African descent were incarcerated.